Hi everyone, welcome to my latest podcast, and today we are actually videoing this in a live location because we're going to be uploading the podcast onto YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it back. So I feel slightly under pressure now that I can be heard and seen, but I think you'll really like the topic today, ladies. Before we get stuck in, I just wanted to promote a webinar that we're running next week. My sister Sandra, I'm sure you've seen her on my social media. She dropped 2 dress sizes. She enlisted my help back in January 25. She got to the point, she was coming towards 50. The old menopause was hitting her hard. Her health was giving her a few nudges in the wrong direction. So she asked me would I help her. Her big goal was to get into a bikini for her 50th birthday. So we're very happy to say that happened, and I'm sure you've seen her photos. She looks amazing, and we have our webinar on Monday night, which is 23rd of June at 8 p.m. And the keyword for that is Sandra. So if you come into my social media and just pop the word Sandra into any of the comments or into the DMs, we'll get you a playback of the webinar. So you'll enjoy that. Sandra's great crack, and I'm looking forward to the conversation between sisters. You forget sometimes you're on camera, you're being listened to, so we'll have to mind our P's and Q's for that one. But anyway, today's podcast is about the most important thing as a coach. The single most important thing as a coach when I am embarking upon a process of helping women change their body is maintenance. Because most women come to me and it's not their first rodeo with weight loss. In fact, they've probably been at this for maybe years or decades. And for me as a coach, I want my program to be the last stop. I want it to be the last hurrah when it comes to their journey. Because ladies, when you're in your 40s and your 50s, you want to spend the rest of your life in a body you love. You want to know how to live at your new, leaner, lighter weight. And that is the most important thing. And it's the one part of anybody's program they always neglect. Because they're in such a rush to get through the fat loss process, they forget about how the heck do I live at my new, leaner, lighter weight? And how do I do that whilst going on holidays, at work, and all the different scenarios? So for me as a coach, there's the way we coach women, we have a process, we have a framework that we use that's very unique. And a huge part of this is coaching women how to live real lives. Because I don't know about you, but I ain't got the time to prep food. I eat out a lot. I'm on holidays a lot. I travel a lot. And when I look back at the old me and of all the clients who I coach, every single one of them, they get Olympic gold medals at the dieting process, but they're absolutely horrific at keeping the weight off because they have never known or never been coached how to live at their new, leaner, lighter weight because it is less calories. We require less fuel as we shrink, okay? A smaller unit of energy requires less fuel. As I always talk about the Mini and the Range Rover. If you've moved from the Range Rover to the medium-sized compact car to the Mini Cooper, different fuel tanks required. And we're no different. We require less fuel, less calories, the smaller we become. But here's the thing, and I've taken notes here today as to why women keep failing at their weight loss. Is number one, the process and the strategy that you're using to set up your diet is flawed. It's too austere. You're trying to diet like you're going into a boxing ring, like a weight making contest. So it is all encompassing, usually all or nothing, usually a very austere strategy that maybe athletes, as I say, might require making weight for a boxing fight or an MMA fight. But here's the thing, we're not MMA fighters, we're not elite athletes, we're women in our 40s and 50s trying to keep our shit together, trying to lose a bit of weight, trying to drop the menopause belly and trying to get the hormones balanced. We may have all these things going on in our life, but we feel we have to be perfect in order to do this, and you can't and you won't, and you're destined to fail if your diet requires this level of perfectionism. And for me, your process, i.e. your journey, is really, really important, but it's nowhere near as important as having the ability and having the skill and having the experience of living at your new, leaner, lighter weight. And the way we set it up in Tara Grounds Fitness is that we focus, number one, on the low-hanging fruit, which is your diet. So say, for instance, you were coming to work with me, and a lot of our clients, there's common denominators throughout every client I coach. We've dieted before. We've done it and we've tried and we've failed many, many times. And people come to me and they're dubious they're fearful because they have no evidence of success, because success is keeping your weight off. And most women who come to me haven't kept their weight off. They've lost weight, but they haven't kept it off. So they have no evidence to present to them, well, is this going to work? Because their only evidence is failure. And it always has been failure. And they've succeeded at the fat loss, but they've never succeeded at the lifelong weight management. My coaching program will coach you within an inch of your life to know when you get to your target weight, how much do I eat? What is my upper level? How do I eat if my friend wants to meet me for a coffee in my favourite restaurant or my favourite cafe and they have the most delicious buns and scones? How do I navigate that? How can I have a coffee and a scone and still manage my weight? And this is really difficult for women who are all or nothing. How do I go to an all-inclusive buffet and without eating rings around me because I've paid for it, and this mentality, I've paid for it and going to eat it? How do I navigate that without coming home with an extra 3 or 4 pounds luggage? How do I go out for a night with my friends, go for a nice Italian meal and have a few glasses of Pinot? How do I do that, A, when I'm dieting, and how do I do that when I'm lighter and leaner? And can I maintain my weight doing that? And this is where women become unstuck, because they don't know how to live like that. They don't know how to do that when they're dieting, and they don't know how to live at their new leaner, lighter weight. And the numbers move, ladies. When we're, as I say, that little tank, that fuel tank becomes smaller, your numbers shift. So therefore your behaviours around food have to shift, and they have to adjust in alignment with the new person you are becoming. Now, we have the numbers issue here in terms of how many calories you have to eat, but also we have an identity shift. And a lot of women I coach have been living in an overweight body most of their adult life. And with fat loss comes this deep level sabotage or saboteur that when they start to lose weight and they've dropped their first 1.5 stone, 2 stone, comes with it, you don't want to lose any more weight. Jesus Mary, you've got wild frail. Holy shit, you do not want to be taking this any further because you look old. You don't want to look old. You don't want to take it now. This has happened so many times to clients of mine who have maybe gone from morbid obesity into obesity. So they've maybe dropped down 3 or 4 BMI points. They're still obese. And someone at work says, are you okay? Are you sure you're all right? Are you sure now? And this really, really impacts women at a deep subconscious level. So there's an identity shift comes with fat loss. So not just the numbers, not just the behaviours around food, but other people's reactions and their verbiage and the way they speak to you also changes. And if you value other people's opinions, then this can really come in, and it can be the death knell to any progress you make. So when I'm coaching women, I'm not just teaching them about, yes, you can go to Costa and have a coffee in a caramel square. Yes, you can have a glass of wine, but this is how many glasses of wine you can have. And yes, this person is going to say to you, in about 6 months' time, when you've lost 2 stone in my program, this person's going to say this to you. And this is what you have to expect. So we just don't coach you on a nutritional level. We coach you on a behavioural level, but we also coach you on a psychological aspect. We coach you and make you aware of this is going to happen. And before, people would always say to me, you're right, Tara, because whenever I lose a stone and I drop down a dress size, my clothes start to get bigger on me. And when my clothes start to get bigger on me, I think that my job's done. I think I get cocky. And people start to say to me, Jesus, you're looking well, you're looking great. And then you get cocky. And what happens then? People take their eye off the ball. They think they've got it sussed. And the way I frame this to my clients is like, we're going hiking tomorrow and we're going to climb a mountain. And we're looking at the top of the mountain thinking, okay, we'll take it, chunk it. And we get to halfway up the mountain and somebody meets you and tells you, Jesus, you're doing great. You're doing fantastic. Well done. But then you sit down halfway up the mountain and you start to self-congratulate. You think, Jesus, I am deadly. How good am I? This is unreal. And you dine out on the distance that you've come rather than looking at the top of the mountain and thinking, that's where I need to get. And then the Grim Reaper here comes, picks you up and goes, here, okay, stop dining out on what you've done. We're not finished the job. This is where we're going to go. So there's so many layers to change. It's not just about the food. It's not about the calories. It's not about the social occasions. It's about other people's reactions and your deep-seated conditioning around this because you've done it many times before. You nearly know when and where. People say to me, Tara, I always sabotage at this level. I'm good for 2 weeks and then boom. Okay, and that's really important feedback for me because then I know, okay, this person sabotages after 2 weeks. This person sabotages when they lose their first 1.5 stone and they're dropping down into their new wardrobe that hasn't fitted them in 2.5 years, and people start to tell them they're lovely. and then boom, the sabotage comes in. So embarking upon a fat loss journey, and I call this a journey because it is a journey, is not about throwing a diet at somebody and saying, right, where you go. You've got 3 months to diet off 18 pounds. Let's go. There's so much more to it than that. You're priming, you're preparing, you're conditioning, you're mentoring, every single aspect of what a journey looks like. You know, you don't get in the car and travel to somewhere and it's just about one thing. You have to think about what I'm going to eat, where am I going to stop, who's going to take me there, what am I going to travel in, what happens when we get there. This is a journey and we account for every single scenario. And one scenario, as I say, people never account for is the maintenance. So what happens when I get there? What does it look like? And for me, there is a lot of panic involved in a fat loss program with women. And the panic usually revolves around, oh my God, I have a wedding at the weekend and it's a 2-day event. What am I going to do? I'm on a fat loss journey. For us, we prime, we prepare you for every scenario in your life. Because this is reality, ladies. You know, as I said, we're not elite athletes preparing for the Olympic Games, living up prescription diet plans. We're going to have days where our food quality is crap. We're going to have days where we're knackered and we do not want to go into our steps, or we just want to get that takeaway instead of preparing a healthy meal. And that's okay. And that's normal. And we have to prepare for those situations. And we do prepare our clients for those situations. You know, we have days where you will want to meet that friend you haven't seen for a year, and you want to go into a nice restaurant or a nice cafe, and you want to have maybe a nice latte and a really, really gorgeous maybe almond croissant, and you're on your diet, and your previous attempts at diet never included an almond croissant or a latte because that wasn't on your to-do list. That was a bad food. I can't do that. I'm on a diet. And now I'm saying, well, actually you can do it, and I'm going to show you how you're going to do it and still have a life and still enjoy that almond croissant without ruining any progress. Because ladies, your fat loss phase has to be like a dress rehearsal for how you live the rest of your life. And if you don't nail those everyday scenarios, you're never going to lose your weight. It's going to be either a horrible process for you, and you're never in a million years going to keep that weight off. So when I'm coaching clients in their 40s and 50s, they tell me where their saboteurs are. They tell me what they want to do that they've previously not been able to do in previous fat loss attempts because they've had so many rules, regulations, boundaries, good food, bad food. Maybe people send them, you can't have that latte or caramel square because you're on a diet. You said you were on a diet. And then the external chatter and white noise that comes from you deciding that you want to lose weight from the people around you. So your environment's really important as well, and who you hang with, you know. And for me, I coach a lot of women who actually rarely eat at home anymore. They're maybe doing boardroom lunches. They're sitting in the boardroom and the delicious outside caterers come in with the gorgeous wraps and the goujons and the vol au vents and all the gorgeous little bits and bobs that come with a lovely catered buffet in a corporate environment. And there's no chance in hell I would ever expect my clients to not sit and not have a plate of some of that delicious food. But for me, I coach them on how much they can eat and what to choose and what are the best options so that they can sit down like a normal human and do that. Because here's the thing, your life's probably not going to change after this diet program. And I have to coach you in how to behave in social situations like that. And ladies, if you don't do that when you're losing fat, you're destined to fail. Because you're likely trying to shoehorn your perfectionist mindset and you're trying to shoehorn your diet into that as well. So it's really important for us as coaches that we make sure that this reflects what your life's going to look like moving forward, that your breakfasts are handy, that your lunches is something that you can do. And it could be the case that most of our clients, you know, it could be 60 to 70% of their meals are maybe stuff that they're making at home, a breakfast or a lunch. But their dinner could be eaten out. There could be 30 to 40% of their calories that they're eating out of the house. They'd be in airports, you know, in a restaurant, meal out. They could be away for the weekend. They could be on an all-inclusive holiday. That's real life. And if you don't account for that, you're never going to lose your weight and you're never going to keep it off. And it's working with people's mindset. And we're very fortunate. We have Jen Rollich and we have Kelly Fayer, who are two psychologists and are absolutely skilled to the nth degree to coach our clients how to behave in situations like this without tripwiring themselves into this may as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb mentality. These decisions are really important, and we put our clients into dieting breaks where we put their calories back to maintenance, and we say, okay, this weekend you're going to maintenance and this is what it looks like. And they panic about that because they've only ever been focused on the fat loss. So we're saying, right, I want you to go to this wedding and I want you to enjoy yourself and I want you to have a few drinks. And if you want to lose fat this weekend or maintain your weight, here's your top line. And if you want to lose weight, here's your top line. And it's coaching people to know what's my top line. When I mean top line is how much of this can I have and still lose weight? Because it changes. Because if you could imagine someone coming in at the start and they have 3 stone to lose, the calories they require when they start are a lot higher than the calories. So as you get leaner and lighter, we reduce the calories down. It's not usually that much, but it does become less as they go through their weight loss journey because they're smaller. They don't need as many calories, so the calories reduce. And then when they're finished their program, because we pop them into periods of what I call maintenance or dieting breaks, they know how to behave around food when they're at maintenance calories because I've coached them and we've trained them how to do that on our program. And I think that's really, really important. So always remember, it's not about if you diet consistently for weeks and weeks of time, you're going to burn out. You're going to get dieter's fatigue. It's going to get boring. It's going to get laborious. And that's not a case of not having discipline, ladies. To me, it's really hard to diet for any more than, a couple of weeks at a time without a little dieting break. And those little dieting breaks, we optimize those periods. We use that as fuel to coach our clients how to live normally. If you're eating out on a Saturday morning with your family and you need to go to your favourite breakfast place for a nice breakfast, you should know what to choose, whilst you're losing weight and maintaining weight. Those are really important decisions. Having periods of push and having periods of pull. When you're knackered in your menopausal years and you've had no sleep, knowing how to give yourself a little bit of grace and sympathy and a little bit of self-compassion to say, well, do you know what? I ain't going to diet for the next 3 or 4 days. I'm not going to be in a deficit of a couple of 100 calories. I'm going to take my calories up and I'm going to nourish my body. And you know what? I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to do 10,000 steps because I'm really tired. I'll do maybe 5,000. That's okay. That's normal. And giving yourself the grace, as I say, and the self-compassion to do that's really important, because when you get to your ideal weight, you're still going to have to employ periods like that as well. And, I think we're robotic in the way we diet. I think we're robotic in the way we think about food. We have so many rules, so many boundaries, so many guidelines, and that's from years of dieting, used faulty systems. And I had a conversation there earlier, just before we came on the podcast, and I was saying to Colleen, who's our social media manager, I was saying to Colleen, the way I coach my clients, and I suppose I couldn't put it any more succinctly, is if you open your fridge, and I use my own fridge as an example this morning, I opened my fridge and there was nothing but Greek yogurt, there was a punnet of blueberries, there was butter, ham, cheese and eggs. That's it, because I haven't got my shopping done and I'm never prepared. I'm never organised and wouldn't claim to be. It's, whenever you can, you get some food in, but that's all there is in the fridge. You should be able to open your fridge and you should be able to look in there without being catastrophic in your thinking and around food and dieting and good food, bad food. Think, right, how can I formulate a breakfast or a meal out of what's in the fridge right now without thinking, oh my God, I can't diet today. Oh my God, my meal isn't ready. My fully prepped, perfect ingredient meal isn't ready to rock and roll, so I can't do it. So then you end up eating 5 slices of Kingsmill with butter and blowing the whole thing out of the water. We try to avoid that catastrophic thinking. We try to relax you around food so that if all you have is eggs and bread in the house, it's simple. Put 3 eggs in a bowl, whisk it, scramble yourself some eggs and have 2 slices of toast and calm down. And, stop thinking in a catastrophic fashion. I think we're so highly strung around diets and fat loss because we've been conditioned for years that we have to eat in a certain way and eat certain type of foods. And I always say, look, I could diet you on Snickers bars and Pinot Grigio, and you'll lose weight. I could diet you on that. I really could. I could put you on a 6-week Pinot Grigio and Snickers diet. I see them all nodding here in the studio going, yeah, Tara, put me on that diet. And you'll lose weight because it is a numbers game. But we're so volatile in our emotions around food that we're always trying to be perfect. And ladies, if you keep trying to do that, you're doomed. You're destined. You're destined to fail before you start. So hopefully that gives you some clarity, some less anxiety, more perspective on how easy this is. We have to keep this simple for our clients because their lives are manic. They're crazy. And success comes from simplicity. It comes from systems, habits, easy peasy slotting this into your life. Not these extreme diets, because it's never going to work. It's never going to work. So hopefully that helps. Any questions at all, come into DMs, DM me, send me an email. If you've any queries, any challenges around fat loss, I'm in the DMs every day, ladies. Please feel free to come in. Let's have a chat. Let's have a conversation. And thank you so much for listening.